Hello and welcome back to Hop to the Top. Hope you're all doing well today as we kickstart Season 7 of Hop to the Top. 7 seasons now, which is pretty mental. We've got a game against Koreans coming up. We've not played Koreans since the very first season in the Challenge League, but they have finally got themselves promoted to the Super League by winning the Challenge League last season. So I thought we'd sort of reminisce a little bit by playing against a team we've not played for a long time. Before we get any further in today's episode though, do just want to quickly apologise. I feel like I'm apologising for quite a few things recently, but obviously you didn't see many videos over the weekend, and yesterday there was nothing either, and that is because I've just not been very well over the weekend and just didn't have any sort of desire to make a video whilst I wasn't particularly well. So that's kind of what that one was about. I'm feeling much better now, thank you for asking. So a full week of videos ahead as of now. So obviously it's a new season, you want to hear about the transfers, but we've had a little bit of an issue with transfers this season, and it's kind of my problem, but it's kind of not my problem in a way. Obviously, we were given £15 million to spend, which is a lot of money, but for the players that we want to bring into the club, that money doesn't stretch very far. So we had to try and sell some players, particularly the players that are on high wages, but no one's interested in our players at the moment, at least the players that I'm willing to sell. We had plenty of bids come in for Randy Schneider, but they were only like £12 million, and we had like £48 million last season for him, so I was never going to accept those kind of bids for Randy Schneider. Gauther, there was quite a few bids coming in for Gauther, but last season they were about £16 million, this season they're about £8 million, and that's less than what we paid for him, so I wasn't going to accept those kind of bids either, so we couldn't really sell many players. The players I wanted to sell, no one wanted them either, so we had a bit of a stalemate really, where we only had £15 million to spend, and not an awful lot of room in the wage budget as well, and that was the biggest stumbling block. Yes, we could get bids accepted for some players, maybe not the best players in the world, but players that could boost the squad a little bit, add some rotation. But the wages they were demanding are in excess of £50,000, and the most we're spending on a player is £40,000 a week on Granit Xhaka, and he's actually a very, very good player. The players that wanted the £50,000 plus aren't as good as Granit Xhaka, I would say. They're not as good as him, and they're not worth that money, so I wasn't risking the financial stability of the club just to bring in some players for the sake of bringing them in. So there haven't been that many transfers. Now, obviously, I wanted to boost the right-hand side of the pitch, and I have done that. That was my predominant focus. And the first player that I brought in on that right-hand side isn't actually joining the club until late August. So he's got to wait a little while for what I think is the best name in Football Manager, Geronimo Capitino. He's only 17 years old, coming in from River Plate for £4 million, which is a steal, but already 2.5-star current ability and 5-star potential. That is something that really excited me, and I think, you know, he looks like a pretty decent player. Coming in, he's slightly better than Billy Schmidt, and I think they can rotate with each other to the point where we're going to have two fantastic young right wingers playing for the squad. It's not quite what we wanted, but we couldn't bring in a world-class player or a very, very good player for the money that we had on the wages that we had. So we're bringing this guy in. We'll show him more next episode when he actually joins the club. But look at those attributes. They look very, very good for 17 years old. And as for the rest of the transfers, well, it's not really been that impressive, I've got to say. The first player we brought in on a free transfer is Ali Chauvin. And if I'm honest with you, I do not remember signing this player. Like, obviously, I must have offered him a contract like in January when like good players going into the last 6 months of the contract. You can offer them contracts. I must have done that then because I don't remember signing him at all. But he came to the club. He's a left back. Looks pretty decent, to be fair, with 20 determination as well. Really good physical. So he could be a great player in the future, but I just don't remember signing him, if I'm honest with you. So we might see him at some point in the future when he starts to develop a little bit more. We've got Gauther and Boone at left back position right now, who are going to be cementing those roles for now. And as you can see, the 4 other signings that we've made are all loan signings, so nothing particularly exciting there. Obviously, Felipe Cruz back once again. He is the biggest signing, obviously, to strengthen that right-hand side. He may as well just be a grasshopper player now, because he's played more seasons for us than Benfica, I think, as well, which is a bit mental. But again, Benfica aren't letting me sign him permanently for anything less than £80 million. So loan will have to do again, obviously. Paulo Bernardo is also back at the club in central midfield to help bolster the centre of midfield. Of course, you might remember him from the Grasshopper days a good few seasons ago, where he played extraordinarily well before going on to play quite a lot for Benfica, and somehow they've let him come back to us for some particular reason. I don't know why, but we've got him to strengthen our midfield, which is really good. And then we've also brought in a centre-back in Luis Navarro from also Benfica as well. 5-star potential. He's sort of a player that I'm sort of almost trying to get on our side a little bit, because he's got 20 determination, 5-star potential, only valued at 1.4 million. Again, if we try and make a transfer offer for him, if we go and suggest terms, Benfica come back with £88 million for him. So we're not going to sign him anytime soon, but I'm trying to just get him comfortable at the club in case he does want to join us permanently at some point down the line, because he'd be a very, very good signing. So obviously, it's not the best transfer window at all. Lots of players leaving on frees that just aren't ever going to make it in football, so we sort of let a few of those guys go. A couple of players out on loan as well, but this season, obviously, we walked the Super League last season. I'm expecting us to do that again. So this season, it's going to be more of a youth development season, I think, just because we can't... Look, last season, if we go back to last season, we spent £60 million, all right? We can't spend that kind of money again because we don't have that kind of money. So that's part of the issue, really. But if we build on what we had last season, we started to invest in the youth a little bit more. I think we've neglected that slightly over the past couple of seasons, perhaps. So if we start to bring a few more youth players into the side, get them playing a bit more regularly, I think that will help us boost ourselves for some future seasons. Obviously, I am still looking for players. I'm still trying to bring some players in actively. And I'm also trying to sell a few players, most notably Lunin on his £39,000 per week. Let's offer him out to clubs once again because he just has to go. Please get out of the club. It was such a mistake signing him. Any money will do. In fact, I might just let him go for free and just someone can take the wages away because I just don't want him here anymore. But as I was saying, hopefully there will be some more transfers for you next episode because I am trying to sign some players. I promise you I am. Anyway, for the game against Koreans then, which we should be winning, it's not the first league game of the season. We actually played two before this because I thought Koreans was the most interesting one to do, more than St. Gallen and Sion. So St. Gallen was the first game of the season. Actually, we drew that 0-0. St. Gallen, you may remember, were in the relegation playoffs last season, ended up winning the relegation playoffs because obviously they're still in the league, but we drew 0-0 to them in the first game of the season, which was very frustrating, but we did bounce back against Sion. Bottles, Bernard and Sterigu with the goals in a 4-1 victory there, which leads us into today's game against Kriens, where we currently sit top of the table on 4 points as it stands right now, but plenty of teams on 4 points, so obviously not much to think about there. But for the Kriens game, Kalas is in goal as per usual, who's developed brilliantly over the past season, is looking like a fantastic goalkeeper for us. Gauther, Augusto, Sterigu and Breton at right back today, who's our young right back, of course, our young right back option, the youth player, because Felipe Cruz currently has a bit of an injury, but should be back for next episode, which is fine. Granit Xhaka and Randy Schneider retain their midfield places, with Bernard, Alex Smith and Billy Schmidt in the attacking midfield, and of course Bottles up front. So really, no change to last season yet. Nothing really changing at all, which is a little bit of a shame, I've got to say. But once we get a new right winger in, perhaps maybe a new centre-back, I'd like to bring a new centre-back in as well. We should be having 1 or 2 changes there, maybe. So then kickoff is upon us here today. It's a home game against newly promoted Koreans. Really, this should be a whitewash. We should be scoring 3 or 4 goals past this Korean side. The Korean side, they got promoted last season, actually had quite a lot of our youth players, I say quite a lot, 2 or 3 of our youth players playing in their first team. So that's something that we can sort of take. Those youth players that played for them last season, I'd like to try and bring them into the Grasshoppers first team this season and probably actually use them in games like this. I haven't really thought this through very well, have I? Probably should be using the youth players against teams like St. Gallen, Sion and Kriens, for example, because they're the games that we should be winning comfortably even with our youth players. So that's what we need to focus on this season a little bit more, I think. Free kick for us then. Randy Schneider putting the ball into the area. Sterigu gets his head on it and it sort of goes over the line in the end. I don't quite know what's just happened there. That looked very strange to me. We've won a penalty out of it, though. I'm not going to complain too much about that one, but fair play. Randy Schneider to step up to take it, and it's saved, unfortunately. I think that's 2 penalties he's missed this season, or I might have dreamt that. Definitely, obviously, the first one, because he's just missed that one, but I feel like he missed one in the other games. But again, I could be dreaming that. I've not played this save file for a few days now, but he has just scored a goal from outside the area there, which is fantastic. So to open the scoring on the 20-minute mark, a nice little move from us there from the throw-in as Breton puts it in towards Alex Smith. Alex Smith cuts back, plays it out to Schneider, who just bangs it first time, bottom corner. You love to see it. I have noticed as well at the corner of my eye, Gauther currently picked up a little bit of a knock, potential foot injury. His condition getting better slowly. I think we'll take him off at half-time. Do we have Boone on the bench? We do have Boone on the bench, which is absolutely fine. So we'll bring him on at half-time. I think that's probably the optimal time to do that. Also, very pleased how we've limited Kriens to 0 shots so far. That's very pleasing. Hopefully we can continue that throughout the entire game, and that should mean, barring any own goals, that they can't score. So this is already wrapped up as a victory. But half-time comes around. We are 1-0 up, which is fantastic, which means that we are going to go passionately at half-time. You've played very well, but still room for improvement. And also onto tactics, Gauther coming off for Jordan Boone in the second half. So just to mitigate the injury a little bit there. Now, obviously, Coley. We need to talk about Coley. He is still at the club. And I was literally so up for selling him. I was so up for selling him to Young Boys because they were very interested until okay, until we had a transfer target at PSG. He was on the transfer list for £5 million. We bid £5 million, but obviously for a target of ours who had 5-star potential, valued at £5 million, or that was a transfer listed price, every club in Europe was pretty much after him, from your Liverpools to your Man Cities to us to also Young Boys. And who won the race to win him in the end? Young Boys won that race in the end, and he was going to be the replacement for Coley, this guy, but obviously Young Boys won that in the end, so I cancelled the transfer of Coley to Young Boys because I wasn't going to strengthen them that much. I want them to do well, but not that well. It meant we had no backup striker then, pretty much, or no, top quality first choice backup, because obviously Patrick Hartman can fill in for him there, but he's not quite at that level yet, unfortunately. But he will get there very soon. He'll have some more first team chances this season, for example. But because of that, they stole, one of my top targets for this summer. I thought, well, we can't sell him Coley. So Coley's still at the club and will probably come on the pitch very shortly because Bottles has not scored a goal yet in today's game as Billy Schmitz looks to get his first goal of the season, but doesn't get his first goal of the season, unfortunately. Bottles also on a 6 rating, which is very weird. I'm not quite sure what he's done to deserve that, but it's going to be a change as Coley's coming on the pitch for Bottles. And then I also want to bring on... Billy Schmitz hasn't played too well, but obviously we've got his replacement coming very soon. Randy Schneider and both Granit Xhaka have played well. I wanted to take Xhaka off for Lars Jacobs, but because Lars Jacobs got to get into the squad somehow this season, and really that replacement is going to be for Xhaka, isn't it? But Xhaka's played well, and if he's playing well, you can't really take him out of the squad. I think in that case then, we take Billy Schmitz off and we bring Florian Wirtz on, who I think is leaving the club soon. I think there is bids for Florian Wirtz, and I want to get rid of him because... really, he's not being used that much, and especially when we get Geronimo into the club, he's not going to be used at all then, pretty much. So we are trying to get rid of Florian Wirtz as well, so hopefully he'll be gone by next episode too, and that means a bit more transfer budget and wage budget for us to spend on some other players, as Randy Schneider grabs his second of the game there from a well-worked routine to get the ball into the area. Fantastic stuff. Jerome Bernard battling hard there, gets tackled, but Jordan Boone still on the ball. He plays it back in towards the middle, and there's Randy Schneider waiting at the far post to pounce on the poor clearance there from the defender. Second goal of the season, second goal of the game. 2-0 up against Kriens. Obviously, I wanted to score 3 or 4. There's still time to score those 3 or 4 goals, but I thought we'd be a little bit more commanding, considering we've had 25 shots and only put 2 of them in the back of the net. Make that 3 of them. Elhaj Coley gets his first of the season, assisted by Jerome Bernard. Beautiful stuff. Wirtz started that move off, to be fair, so maybe it might be a little bit of a regret selling him. He's a good player, but he's just not quite that first team level that we want him to be, and he's never going to develop into that first team level. To be fair, he's a fantastic backup player, so maybe I'm a bit harsh wanting to sell him, but it's just one of those things, unfortunately, that it just happens in football. We need some money, we need to free up a bit of wage budget as well, and he's one of those players that are sort of taking up, he's valued quite nicely as well, and he takes up a bit of the wage budget, so it sort of makes sense to let him go, as Kriens, looking for their first shot of the game, can't put it in the back of the net, which is good for us. So 10 minutes ago in today's game, we have played phenomenally well. Very pleased with how a team have performed there. Obviously, the substitutes not performing quite as well, but they're substitutes. They're not expected to perform quite as well and get those ratings throughout the entire game. Kalas has not had much to do, which is why he's on a 6.8 rating. But for the rest of the team, I was very, very pleased there. Their keeper obviously played very well on a 7.4 rating, 15 shots on target. We need to be scoring more opportunities than that. But a 3-0 victory, you can't complain too much, really, can you? So we sit first in the table after 3 games on 7 points, joined by Basel, but we have superior goal difference, which is fantastic. Young Boys have won 1, drawn 2, sit on 5 points, and Luzerne are on 4 points, but have only played 2 games so far, so they could easily join us on 7 points if they win their game against St. Gallen. So if I'm honest with you, I don't think it's going to be too long to wait for the next episode in terms of these fixtures, because the Champions League group stage draw is on the 28th of August, which is when our new right winger joins us as well. So we'll do the Champions League group stage draw, the Basel game. There's then an international break, but then we'll also play the first Champions League game of the season as well, which is pretty exciting. So that's what to expect next episode. So I will see you there. Hope you have a lovely evening. But until then, thank you very much for watching. So make sure you drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great one. Goodbye.